Hey, I'm Josh from Vacuums R Us and Sewing 2 in Colorado, and today we are going to do a motor replacement on a Sebo X4. This video is also applicable to Karcher commercial units that have this same body style. They use the same motor, as well as some of the older Windsor sensor machines, which look like this as well. Same process, the body style is going to be a little bit different. They may be different colors, but I think if you're looking to do a motor replacement on these machines, I think you'll certainly recognize what this looks like. This is a little bit more of an extensive repair than some, so first this disclaimer. All right, before we start this repair, disclaimer time. This video is for informational purposes only. These repairs should only be done by factory authorized technicians in vacuum stores. If something goes wrong here, I am not responsible for any issues that might arise. If the vacuum becomes sentient and eats your cat, not our problem. Seriously though, watch the entire video. A lot of these repairs are very difficult. Make sure you're confident in performing this repair before you start, because the last thing in the world you want to do is take this machine apart and then bring it into a repair shop because you couldn't complete the repair. Many repair shops, like ours, will not accept machines once they've been messed around with. So make sure you can do this before you start, because you're in it to win it. So step one is we're going to remove the upper housing from the lower housing. There's a button right here which will disengage the upper and lower. Windsor Karcher machines, it may look a little different. It may be a square button, but there will be a button there. You kind of have to manhandle it a little bit. You'll depress the button and then you have to pull the top from the bottom. Sometimes they're stuck and you have to put the machine on the floor and put a foot here and hold it down and then pull up the top. But you can usually wiggle them right off. So now that we have access to this, we're going to remove the top hood, and we're going to do that from the underside. There are only 4 screws that need to be removed. All right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Note that these 2 screws back here are the inset ones. There's some surface screws right there. You do not need to remove those. Those are what hold the base plate on, that covers the brush roll. You don't need to remove those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, we're going to flip it over. The screws should come out now. Okay, so now our lid's going to pop off. We'll set that aside. Your motor's right in here. This is so bad. This motor blowout was so bad. First of all, you can see the burn, but it is so bad. We actually have bearings shaking around inside of here that blew out of the motor. The customer's description was, it makes a loud rattling noise. Yeah, I should think so. Your motor exploded. Okay, so we've got a total of, there should be 4 screws here. I actually note that we're missing the rear motor screw right there. And I also just heard something rattle, probably another motor bearing. Well, maybe it's inside. Oh, I just had a little piece of metal fragment come out. All right, I'm going to remove the other 3 remaining screws. These screws are a totally different size than the base screws, so you don't need to worry about mixing them up. These are much smaller. All right, and there should be a 4th screw right there, which is missing. And so oh yeah, you can hear all that stuff inside there rattling around. I'm going to flip this over and kind of dump out whatever comes out of the motor. Yeah, there's another bearing. Oh, that's just the plastic mount that holds the motor in. Yeah, I hear a lot of stuff rattling around. I'm going to remove the motor and see if that gets rid of some of the rattling. There's a belt guard right here that just pops out, and that will allow me to slide the belt off the end of the motor shaft. And then I have 2 wires going to the motor here. Got one here on top that's readily visible. I'll just pull that off. On this one, I don't have clips on these, but on the more modern machines, there's a little clip there you'll want to depress to unlock this from the motor. And now the motor should just pop. It should pop right out for me. There we go. I'll pull off the rubber motor mount back here. And then I've got my other wire back there, which is just a pressure fit as well. All right. So I've got more bits and pieces of motor shrapnel in here. I'm just going to go ahead and flip it over. And yep, there's more. All right, here we have the motor. I will link to this below where you can order it. There's also, I'm going to link to a schematic, a parts diagram where you can see every single part that's in this. And you can order them there too if there's other parts that you need. All right, there we go. Motor comes with new rubber motor mounts. Okay, so note one thing here. I have a I have a green ground cable right here on the motor, and I have a clip right there for a ground wire. But because we're working on a Sebo, which is a residential machine, and they're 2-prong cords, they're not grounded, there are no ground wires in here. If you're working on a Karcher or a Windsor, which is a 3-prong machine, you'll have an extra wire that we didn't see here. You'll have an additional wire, which is your ground wire, which will go into there. No big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean this up because we've got a lot of soot in here from the brushes burning over the years. All right, so I'm going to use isopropyl alcohol to clean this up. I like isopropyl. It's a good cleaning agent. Importantly, it evaporates very quickly, so you don't have to wait for things to dry. And if you're using a high alcohol percentage, like a 90%, it doesn't damage PCBs and electronics if you get the alcohol in contact with your PCBs and electronics, whereas like cleaning agents, more normal cleaning agents, they typically would. Now, I can't do a lot to clean these pads. We could have replaced them, I suppose. This machine is very old, probably shouldn't be repaired at this age, but they're attached to it. We're trying to keep repair costs down, so we're not going to go and replace a housing we don't need to replace. I'm just going to clean it up to the best of my ability, get as much of this soot off as we can, and then get the machine working, essentially. Okay, so here's the new motor. You'll note, first of all, that there's a ground wire on here, and there's a ground wire clip here. If you're working on a commercial machine, a Karcher or a Windsor branded machine, you'll have a third wire. There'll be black and white, and then there'll be a green ground wire because they have ground plugs. Sebos are residential machines, they're 2-prong, so there's no grounding. But if you are working on that, you'll have an additional green wire, and it plugs in right here. So there's only one way you can put this in. We'll put our motor mount on right there. That sets in good. So there's a tensioner right here that we're going to have to deal with, which kind of presses the motor in. And so we're going to slide the motor mount in, and then I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver to pull that tensioner back a little bit as I drop the machine all the way in. And then I'll release the tensioner, and the tensioner is going to push up against this motor mount down here, and it's going to hold this tight. And the great thing about this rubberized motor mount is it keeps the machine from vibrating like crazy. So we're going to run the wire. There's a little slot right here for your wires. And then you have this shroud that goes kind of back here, and it goes underneath the PCB right here. Your wires are going to come free up here. They'll run through wire guides right there. And then they're going to plug in back here on your board. So you'll notice when you pull this wire out, these connections are attached to each other, and you can't put it in wrong, but the connections on the new wire are positive, marked positive, negative. So for your reference, the black wire is back here, your positive wire is back here, and the white wire is in front. So white, black. All right, so we're going to tuck these wires in a little bit right here. We're going to need to put this belt back on the motor. The easiest way to do that, I think I'm going to put the motor shroud back on first to hold the motor in place. All right, now we need to slide the belt back over the end of the motor shaft. Not really that hard. This belt is pretty stretched out. A newer belt will be a little bit tighter, but the belt is not slipping, so we're not going to replace it today. We're really trying to keep this repair on a budget. I'm going to reinstall this with the spring. I'm actually going to apply some grease to this while I'm at it. Just a little bit. All right, so the small hook's going to go through there, and then we're just going to drop this, and this large hook, there's a hole right there that's going to pop through. And then we're going to wiggle this around. And what we should find is that pops back up now. Okay, and then we have this belt guard, which just slops down in there. There's a ridge right here, which goes inside of that slot. And then this little dimple right here is what's going to hold this upright lever in place. None of this is screwed in. It just all pressure fits right there. You'll hear a snap, and then we are good to go right there. Okay, we're going to put the lid back on now. Careful not to pinch any wires over here. It seems like we have quite a bit of extra wire there on the new motor. I'll lean this back. Everything will just wiggle into place once you get it in the right spot. Recline that, and then we're going to put, again, 4 screws in the bottom to finish this up. All right, finally, we're going to go ahead and slap the body back on. Now, this customer is also getting a handle replacement. They had damaged their cord and had some other issues going on. The easiest way is just to simply replace the handle on these units in its entirety instead of trying to tear the handle apart and do a cord. You're certainly welcome to do a cord if you want, but we bill by the hour, and this is less expensive for the customer just to do a simple handle assembly. Now that the handle is installed, we've got power and I can plug it in, and I bet it will sound a lot different. Most certainly does. This thing sounded like it was going to explode previously. Okay, so we got a successful motor replacement. This is actually going to go back into the queue for the regular techs to do a full service on it. Machine's pretty beat up, needs to be cleaned out, filters, all that stuff, brush roll serviced, and then it will be good to go. And I mean, it's a Sebo, it'll probably run another 12, 15 years.